Okay, now I'm going to show you how to make a bar chart. So here I have a reminder, we'll use bar charts for nominal variables. And bar charts and histograms really aren't very different from each other. Histograms are best used for interval or ratio variables, and they show continuous values on the variable on the x-axis. And then bar charts show us how many people belong to different groups or categories. So that's why we're using bar charts for nominal variables or ordinal variables. Um, but really, when we're looking at them, they don't look too different from each other, except for that histograms are flush and bar charts have spaces in between your rectangles here. So in R, bar charts are created with this bar plot function. Super creative stuff here, people. Okay, so bar plot takes arguments that are a little more complex than histogram does. So when we tell R how to make a bar plot for us, we need to give it two pieces of information. So what groups are we plotting here? And then how many people belong in those groups? So let's use our table function again to see how many people are male and how many people are female in our work stress data file or data frame. And you'll notice again, it's that same format where you ask for the data set, then you ask for the variable within the data set. And here you can see there's 206 females and 149 males. So now we're going to have to tell R, we're going to make these new vectors essentially that tell R what the groups are. That's our first piece of information, information piece A, and then how many people belong in those groups. That's the second part, that's part B. So we say groups are equal to, and then we tell it female and male. You could do that if it was a different variable. If you had your migraine or something, you would do yes and no. Or if it was race, you would put different races in there. Here we're naming it, we're telling R what to name it. Now we're making this second vector with how many people belong in these groups. And we're going to call that vector members. I'm just calling it that. And I look down here to see there's 206 females. So I'll put that in the first position because we have female in our first position up here. So they have to correspond with each other. R is going to look at position 1 in this vector and then position 1 in that vector and say, oh, these are equal to each other. Then for the second position in the vector, I look down, I see 149 males, and I type it in up here. And then I'll run it. And we have them over there. You can't see it because I hit it. There's your members vector. Okay. So now we're going to run this bar plot function, and it can take these arguments called height, and height will be used to give it this piece of information, B, how many people are in each group. So that's the height of the rectangle in our bar plot. And then the names arg tells us the names of our two groups. So that's piece A. So we do bar plot, and we set height equal to members, and the names argument equal to groups. Now we can run it. And there we have our female and we have male, just as we wrote it up there on line 233. Now again, I'm just going to show you a slightly easier way to do it. You can do it this way if this makes more sense to you, but if it doesn't, feel free to do this process for your lab. So here we're essentially taking all of this and we're just putting this table function inside the bar plot function to accomplish the same thing, but in one line of code. So we're saying make a bar plot and look at gender look at the groups and gender. So it'll say, oh, there's a female group and a male group. And then look at how many people are in each group. So we're just kind of taking this and putting it into a bar plot. And so you'll notice it was basically the same, except that it used our values in our, let's find our data file, or data frame. Yeah, just took those values and put it in our plot. So now again, we can change the names if we want. If we wanted to do this table method, then we can just add the names argument afterwards and set it equal to groups again. And we'll see female, it took female from up here, male from up there. To just make it a little prettier. Now we'll use the same add-ons that we use for the histogram to name the main title, the x-axis, and then the y-axis. So main we set equal to gender of the participants. Again, we have our quotes. X-axis is gender, y-axis is frequency. So it's just a little nicer to look at. So that is how you make a bar plot. It's a little more complex in terms of the code, but ultimately, if you follow these rules, it should be okay. I find the table to be a little bit easier because again, you're just taking what we already have over here and putting it into a nice little chart.